what's up folks of YouTube? This is Keith and you're watching Barbara's Auto Help. Today I'm going to be replacing a thermostat and thermostat housing on a 1998 Dodge Durango with a 5.2 liter in it. Now this design has been used over a couple of years, or a few years actually, on the 5.2 liter and is very similar on the 5.9 liter. So if it's not a 98 Dodge Durango, say you have a different model or if it's a different year, this may help you out. As always, just verify. If it doesn't look similar, then of course it doesn't apply to your vehicle there. Let's go ahead and get into it. First thing you want to do is remove the radiator cap. We're going to be draining the radiator, and by having the cap off, it helps it to drain better. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is locate the radiator pepcock or drain. This is located on the driver's side on the lower part of the radiator. And this is your pepcock here. Just take and twist. The thermostat lives right up in all that mess right there. So we're going to have to remove the compressor, the alternator, and the mounting bracket in order to get to it. First thing we'll do is remove the belt. Take a 15mm wrench and double it up. Take the tension off the belt and remove the belt from the drive system like so. You don't have to take the belt completely out, just kind of set it down here on the water pump pulley. Alright, next we're going to tackle this AC compressor, and you can see these lines coming off here. You go to this little bracket, take that bolt out and open that bracket up. That's going to allow you to take the compressor and just set it off to the side. We're not going to have to evacuate the AC system or anything like that to do this job. Just set it off to the side. Disconnect the electrical connectors. Once you've got your bracket disconnected and your electrical connectors disconnected, you can then proceed to take the bolts out of the compressor and remove it. Now back here there's a little bracket that you'll have to remove, and it's held in by 3 bolts. They're 13mm. Just take and loosen them up. Alright, once you got your bolts loose, just go ahead and pull the whole bracket up with the bolts in it. And just set it aside with the bolts in it, and that'll help you to keep track of the bolts. Remove the front bolts too. And this bolt right here is going to need a little special attention. You just use a box-end wrench. Make sure you get the right size. Loosen it up. You pull up once you start losing space between that hose there, or that line, and the bolt. Just pull up on the compressor, and that'll help you get it out the rest of the way. There we go. Got that loose. And you just leave the bolt in there. Just take the compressor, set it over on the side there. And that's where the compressor is going to hang out in the meantime. Now we're going to turn our attention to the alternator, but before you go taking this thing off, disconnect your battery negative cable first. We should have did that first actually. Alright, we're disconnecting the negative battery cable end. Set that off to the side. Now we can remove our alternator. Actually, we're not going to disconnect the electrical portion of the alternator, but still disconnect your battery first. We're just going to remove it and set it off to the side just like we did the compressor. The alternator is held on by 2 14mm bolts. One up top here, one down at the bottom. Start with this one. Set that aside there. And then we'll remove the alternator and set it aside as well. And now that we got the alternator and compressor out of the way, we can go ahead and remove the 7 bolts that hold this bracket on. There's one that lives behind this pulley here, so we'll have to remove that pulley also. We'll do that first. So 14mm bolt. Set that off to the side. There's that bolt right up underneath there. Go ahead and loosen them all up and take them out the rest of the way by hand. I almost forgot, there's another bolt over here. It's a 13 millimeter. It holds the dipstick tube on. We'll remove that one also. Take this little tube here, just kind of twist it out of the way a little bit there. Alright. Just pull it up and out of the way. And now our thermostat is exposed, or our thermostat housing is exposed. Now we can get down to business. Now I'm just going to break in right here. You don't have to take all this stuff off in order to do this job. However, in my case, there was a lot of stuff down there that needed to be cleaned up. I needed to get access to it so that I could clean it up well and do a good job. But there are tools out there that you can use to do this without taking all that stuff off. It is doable, but it's a little bit difficult to do it without taking this stuff off. And to tell you the truth, it's not that big a deal to take this stuff off in the first place. It's just nuts and bolts. Maybe it might take you 15 minutes to remove all that stuff, but you could do so much a better job of cleaning up that mating surface and sealing up that surface. So that's why I did it this way. So you do it however you want to do it. And I'll also mention, guys, that while you have all that stuff off, it's not a bad idea to replace any hoses that are exposed. You can see that little bypass hose is exposed right there, and then the hose on the left is exposed. So if you want to go ahead and replace those, now's a good time to do that. All right, this thermostat outlet has a lot of funk built up around it. We're just going to go ahead and take a screwdriver and clean all that up real good. We don't get none of this inside the cooling system. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the radiator hose from the housing. Just got it loose. Take your hose clamp, pull it up the hose. Pull and twist at the same time. Break the seal on that hose there, make it easier for you. There we go. Take and set your hose off to the side. And your housing's held in with two 13 millimeter bolts. Go ahead and break those loose. And remove the housing. Now the reason we're replacing this housing here, these are real bad about getting rust pitted. You can see all that pitting right there. You can never really get a good seal with your radiator hose, and also the pitting occurs on this mating surface here. So get you a fresh outlet for your thermostat there. Here's your thermostat. Pull it out. Sometimes it helps to put a screwdriver in there to kind of pry it up a little bit there. Alright, at this point, guys, what you want to do is clean up the mating surface really well. The better you get this mating surface cleaned up, the better you're going to get a seal with that new gasket. It's nothing more frustrating than getting down here and doing all that work, putting it together and finding out you got a leak on this surface here. So get it clean, get it smooth. I like to use a razor blade. I know this isn't the most efficient way to clean this, but I like just taking a regular old razor blade and scraping the gasket material off with it. It takes some time, but it's just something I like doing. We'll go ahead and put our thermostat in. Spring goes towards the motor. or into the intake manifold, and the thermostat sits inside that little ledge right there. Alright, next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our new thermostat housing or outlet and place some RTV on the mating surface. Distribute it nice and evenly. Take your new gasket, place it onto the outlet, press it down. And take some more RTV and place it on this side of the gasket. Now, a lot of mechanics don't recommend using RTV on both sides of the gasket. I've been doing this for years. It's been working fine. Doing this, it's a little bit more forgiving. If you nick up that mating surface down there, it's going to get in those nooks and crannies and seal it up real well for you. Now, when you go to put this outlet on, there's going to be a little tang on it, and this little tang goes towards the front of the vehicle. There's actually a little bit of an angle on this neck here, and you have to have it facing the correct direction in order for it to work right. Sit it down. We'll go ahead and get them started by hand. And we'll tighten our bolts. At this point, guys, we can go ahead and just reverse procedure, put all your brackets on, your accessories, all that, just place them back in order the way you took them off, just reverse order. Now, the only thing I can think of that would cause you any problems would be this hose down here. We had to twist it a little bit in order to get that bracket out. You may want to take this hose out and clean it up real good, put you a fresh O-ring on it, and then reapply it. Well, that is pretty much it, guys. Of course, you got to do reverse procedure. You'll need to fill and bleed the cooling system. I'll have a link down in the description to a video showing you how to fill and bleed a cooling system using a bleeder. You don't have to do it this way, but this is the only thing I have on my channel showing you how to fill and bleed your cooling system so far. Also, please read the entire description down below before you attempt this. I may need to clarify some things down in the description, and that's where I do that. Please read that and the disclaimer at the very end. Thanks again for watching, guys. Like and subscribe.